So July 19th, 2007, I was diagnosed with leukemia. I was in Colorado working for Come and Go at the time. We went out there to train for some stores, and I had started feeling really weak and really tired feeling. I didn't know what was going on. So we went to the hospital, and the doctors there diagnosed me with walking pneumonia and bronchitis. And so they gave me antibiotics and some other medicine. And I stayed on those for 3 or 4 days, and nothing happened. So one night I was taking a bath in Epsom salt because it was hurting everywhere. I thought maybe that would help. And when I got out of the bathtub, I had fallen back in the door frame and fractured my tailbone, and then I knew something was weird. So I went to bed that night, woke up the next day, and my sheets were full of blood. And so I went to the ER in Colorado, and that's when they found out that I had the acute lymphoblastic leukemia. All of my white blood cells, the pathologist said she could see the white blood cells eating like other good and bad cells. So I was admitted to the hospital. I had never been in an ambulance, I'd never been in a helicopter, I'd never been in an airplane. So from that room, they took me out to an ambulance. The ambulance drove me to a jet, and from the jet, I got in a helicopter to a hospital in, I think it was Aurora. Anyway, I stayed there for 5 weeks. I was on probably 7 or 8 different chemo treatments. Come and Go flew my mom and my sister there, and I was diagnosed at 4 p.m. July 19th. And then my mom was there the next morning by noon. And I just remember like laying in the bed, and mom comes in the door, and I just lost it. Like I was just really upset. And she was worried, and I was never really, I guess, worried as much as she was, because I had faith, and I knew that it was happening for a reason. I just didn't know what the reason was. And so once she got there, my nerves calmed, and I just hung in there for 5 weeks, and then I was stable enough to fly back to Jonesboro, which is where I live. We met Dr. Pallera, and then Dr. Pallera did bone marrow biopsies, and I think I had a few lumbar punctures here. And then in January of 2008, I did all of my treatment at the Les Clinic. But after the steroids and the chemos, I was in remission in September of 2007. I continued treatment until March of 2011. And in 2012, I was diagnosed with avascular necrosis, which is deterioration of your joints. And so the only thing that Dr. Pallera, Dr. Neal at the time could think of was it's from the steroids and the chemo usage. So it was in my right hip. He did a decompressive surgery because it had collapsed, and then, he did the decompressive surgery and then it collapsed. So then we had no choice but to completely replace it. So we did that. It was fine. I was fine. I was working at the time. Everything was good. And then the same thing started happening with my left hip. And so typically when you're on treatment, you get avascular necrosis in 1 or maybe 2 joints. So I thought, well, maybe it's in the second joint too. Well, lo and behold, did the decompressive surgery, and that one fell in too. And so I had both of my hips replaced. We just recently discovered that it is in both shoulders, both hips, and both knees. And so he replaced my left shoulder on November 14th of last year. Well, my right knee is partially collapsed. So that's on the list to be replaced. I just don't know when. But I will say I would rather have these issues than the alternative. You know, like if my treatment didn't work, because there's so many people out there that it does, like, someone could be on the same treatment I am, and it may not work for them. And there's so many people like that are not as fortunate as I am. And I've always said, since the day that I was diagnosed, if cancer could take me and cure everyone else, I would let it be. I would let it happen.